I like both of them, but every time I look at mathematics, it gets me more excited.
Do you want to pass? So we're just starting with a quick intro question, waiting for everyone to join on what is the proposal you're more excited about, and if you're in between one or another. I'll pass it to Tam.
I'm in the process of writing out my thinking around the advantages and disadvantages of all of them. And I mean, I feel like there's some that's ruled out. And then, no, I mean, it feels like of all of them, probably Goldilocks will get my vote. I'm just really, I mean, the main disadvantage I have with that is I don't believe people are going to vote to increase the exit tax. But of all the other disadvantages, I feel like that disadvantage, like I'm trying to take this like advantage, disadvantage. I'll probably post it on the phone after I finish writing it out. And it's like of all the advantages and all the disadvantages, I'm trying to weigh them all against each other. I feel like that's probably not the it's before the vote closed. And I'll pass to Ben's.
Hey, yeah, I kind of liked Goldilocks and Bolshevik's Gambit the most. And I think I'm leaning Bolsheviks, just kind of what Tam was saying about, you know, baking into the proposal like future votes. I kind of lean towards like the way Bolshevik just kind of sets it and lets it go with those exit and entry tributes, and those two are fairly similar except for that, I think. So that's what I was going with. I'll pass to Edu if you want to go.
Yes, thank you, Vince. I think I will lean also towards Goldilocks. Really, it's more about, for me, certain parameters that I saw, and I felt it was the most balanced to the proposal originally submitted like a while ago. So I really like that one. So yeah, I have not much to develop on that. I will pass it on to Lauren.
I was just distracted in this moment, and now I've immediately forgot the question. The question was, which proposal are we supporting? Which one do we like, right? And why?
Yeah, and I think for you would be if you were not supporting Goldilocks, do you have a second option?
Yeah, I mean, well, Bolshevik's Gambit is really similar to Goldilocks. I put that as my second vote. I mean, it's got really similar parameters for everything. Similar reserve ratios, similar opening price, similar amount of funds going to the compool, similar Dow voting. It's pretty good. I think Goldilocks is like a little bit better, which you've probably heard me debate about why. But yeah, if I didn't vote for Goldilocks, I'd vote for Bolsheviks. I'll pass it to Ben's.
I already went, but I don't know. Nick, did you go?
Hi, sorry, I'm just here to listen. Do go ahead, someone else.
Aloysius, do you have one proposal that you're excited about?
I don't. I'm still learning. For me, it's more of like I'm here of my free will and my time is valuable, and I'm investing it in people more so than learning what all this stuff is that I can't participate in. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm not sure who to pass it to that hasn't gone just because my brain.
What about you, Zep?
Yeah, thank you, Livy. I really like Ostrom's Baby and Bolshevik Gambit. I also like Goldilocks, but then Bolshevik Gambit is kind of the same, but with lower tributes, right? I like lower tributes. So yeah, uh, yeah. Back to you, Libby.
Is there anyone else that wants to share, or we can start with a little bit of the debate?
I was having connection issues, but yeah, I am very excited about Ostrom's principles, and I, I cannot believe that like I designed a proposal that is there in the runoff, and that yeah, I feel that I have learned a lot of just by being in the token engineering and participating in the programs debates and parties. So that's really cool.
Awesome. So yeah, just to have some solid time for the debate, I'll start it off. And this is not like a super formal debate to defend all the proposals and to explain all of them in depth, but it's more to get into these questions that I think are interesting for us to think about. And I think we have representative for all the proposals. Nate, do you mind representing mathematics? Because Nugget said he's still working on the test.
Oh yeah. Do you want me to do 420 as well?
Sure, if
I
you
can
want.
do I can do
Do you
both.
want to
Or Tam, do you want to do 420? Oh, sorry.
I just wondered, are we going to have a more open conversation, or is it going to be just the people, one person defending? I mean, one person sort of answering the question, or is everyone going to participate?
Everyone's going to participate. I just wanted to have one representative for each proposal in case we have more in-depth questions and in case we need that extra understanding for the
Okay.
proposals.
Okay. Yeah, I don't mind then sharing my perspective on these questions with respect to 420, but would also be very keen to hear other people's perspectives as well.
Cool. So I share them in Softgov. And oh, Nick, I just saw your message. How can newcomers participate in voting? Unfortunately, only participants of the hatch can participate in voting now. After the commons upgrade, then everyone who has TEC tokens can participate in voting. But for now, it's only people who were in the hatch.
Thank you. I'll pass that on to the people asking the question.
Cool. Thank you. Okay, so hey, Nugget. Thanks for joining.
Hey, sorry I'm late. We'll have to finish
Oh,
that
no
up.
problem. Yeah, so I have 3 questions that I would like. I will ask this question to the people who are representing the proposals, but also I want to have a brainstorming that of everyone else that understands pieces from different proposals to give their opinions. So I find it very important, these 3 topics: incentive alignment, participation, and sustainability. So by incentive alignment, meaning how are proposals aligning the TC mission, vision, and values with the financial incentives? So we're talking a lot, of course, with the bonding curve about how the market is going to interact, how people are gonna, what are the motivations for people to join the community? Are they financial motivations? Are they culturally based? And if they are financial, are they aligned with our mission? So I want to ask that for 420 first, of how is the incentive alignment seen in the proposal, and if this is a preoccupation.
Have a
Cool.
TC, MVV, and financial incentives. I'm not sure I understand the question. I'm sorry, Olivia. Can you describe it again?
Yeah, so in the design of 420, the general design, our participants, how do we want, how do the parameters influence participants' alignment with the culture? So are they joining because I asked for 420 first because there is a high market incentive. So it's probably the proposal that is most attractive to people who would be like only looking at the financial aspect of it, for example. And then is there something in the proposal that also balances that with the culture? Or how do you see that?
Okay, I'm going to take a shot at answering this. So I think when we were saying the financial incentives, what I'm interpreting this to mean is the financial security of the TEC. So the North Star of supporting projects that advance token engineering, right? So like how does it align with the North Star of what we want to achieve? I think in a few ways. The first way is the long freeze and thaw. I'm really doubling down on this low time preference. You raise capital and then it takes time to build what you're building, and now we have that opportunity to do the building. And I think that the low time preference allows actually a more durable, will allow us to actually build better things than if we start to see exits from the TEC earlier. I guess the second thing is it has a high market cap. So it has the highest market cap. Again, there's like unintended consequences from that, which we'll talk, I think, in the next one. But I think that it's a fairer value for what the TEC has, the intellectual capital, the know-how, all the skills, and all of the community in the TEC now. And will be more, possibly my speculation, I'm speculating that the speculators will find it more attractive and will become more interested in speculating in the TEC. And with that and the the stable but relatively high in terms of the tributes, that speculation we'll profit from, because the speculation, so the low reserve ratio will have a perception of volatility. The speculators will be trying to capitalize on this volatility. The speculators will be funding the commons pool, so growing the commons pool so that we have more capital to fund projects. So I'd say the low time preference with if I'm going to recap this, low time preference, high market cap, interesting to speculators, and then capturing the output of the speculation by increasing the commons pool. I think those are the three main things that come to my mind in terms of like the financial incentives to support token engineering. I'll pass back to you.
That was very well elaborated. Thank you. Does any other proposal wants to answer that question, or is there anyone else who has thoughts on this point too?
Yeah, I wanted to say that, the whole point of this kind of augmented bonding curve module, like when it comes to aligning the incentives, the financial incentives of the participants and aligning it with the mission of the organization itself, it's the common pool. Like, how do we generate funds for the common pool? And I think at one point there was a conversation we had, and you mentioned like if this doesn't work in the way we want it to, like what are we really, what is it that we're doing creatively or new that no one else is doing? And for this to align with the mission of the organization, we need to be able to generate funds for the common pool that fund public goods. And so looking at the proposals, which one of these proposals does that? Which one accomplishes generating the most funds for the common pool? And it's daily operation, and a lot of them, they have the assumptions. Yeah, we will have a lot more speculators, and that may have impact with culture, but the engine of the economy is very important. And so for me, when I look at 420 in mathematics, anything with a kind of a lower reserve ratio, um, it is very attractive just for the fact that that volatility will encourage interaction with the augmented bonding curve, from arbitrage opportunities, since that's, what's going to be the biggest driver for that common pool. So that's my thoughts around it.
Yeah.
Sorry, go, Lauren.
Okay. Thanks, Monka. Yeah. So I think that, I mean, we want to be generating a lot of funds for our common pool. Like, this is like the main thing that's going to be driving the TC on its mission. So it's like most of the proposals are putting $1 million in the common pool, which I think is really good. And then the thing I really like about the Goldilocks proposal that's like in line with this incentive alignment. I have a hard time saying that, actually, because there's so much, like, people don't really like saying incentive alignment. It really upsets them to talk about incentives. I'm like it's not incentives. There's no incentives, but okay. Theoretically speaking, people want to come into the TC in the early days because they're going to experience profit by the token volatility, by the token price going up. And I think that, I mean, the Goldilocks proposal achieves this like right balance with having the 20% reserve ratio, because you still have the token volatility. So people who are coming in the early days are still very likely to profit. I think it's like we only need to sell 40,000 tokens every month in order for people to be making like at least 4%, and then therefore having more of an incentive to come in earlier, even if we're reducing the entry tributes. It's so it's like, but also with the Goldilocks proposal, there's this 22% entry tribute. So we're bringing in people who are adding to the common pool when the augmented bonding curve is open, and then there's not these secondary markets. So it's like people are able to take advantage of the token price being like quite low in the early days. So coming in early, but then we're also funneling those funds into advancing token engineering, which I think is like super critical and important, especially like at the beginning. And then like as time goes on with the Goldilocks proposals, it's like decreasing the entry tribute and increasing the exit tribute. And like overall still the tribute like span will be smaller, like the total tributes added together will be smaller. So over time we're getting less funds in there, but our bots are more likely to be using the augmented bonding curve than like actual people. So then we can actually still take advantage of the entry tributes and the exit tributes to be bringing more funds into the common pool. And I think that's really important.
Juan, thank you. Juan, do you wanna take it?
Yeah, that one of the alignments that Ostrom Baby have with the values of the TC is that we are operating from a perspective that prioritizes the sustainability of our token engine of our system over short-term profits, because raising the opening price and lowering the reserve ratio will give short-term profits, but can affect the sustainability of the token model in the future. So yeah, that's one of the things that we're trying to be aligned when designing Ostrom's Baby.
And Nagin, do you want to share something on how mathematics are looking into the mission, the alignment with the mission of the TC?
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, I agree with Tam there with the long vesting and long thaw, which doesn't affect directly the bonding curve, but yes, I think it's well, it makes sure that the people who are already in are aligned with the mission of the TC and kind of gives us a safety net at the beginning. I also agree with Lauren that at the end of the day, most of the transactions will be with the bonding curve will be from ARB bots and arbitrage bots, and and I think there it's important that we or what I think is good about the lower reserve ratio of mathematics is that since it gives the token, as I said other times, I think it gives the token, it stabilizes the price of the token at the level where I think we should aspire to, and doesn't cut us short in a way. And with this higher price and higher market cap comes more visibility. It's a bigger project, gets more eyes on it, and probably will be listed on more exchanges and have these art bots, just because since it is everywhere, these art bots will take will be connecting to the bonding curve to keep the price stable, and this volume will generate revenue for funding public goods. Because I think at the end of the day, what is going to fund the commons pool is the volume. It's not just the price in itself, but how much people buy and sell. That's the kind of the whole situation with the bonding curve, and about having this token which we mint and burn on the bonding curve and also vote with and have it transferable and such.
Thanks. And is there someone to represent Bolsheviks? Or that there's something to share on that end for Bolsheviks? I would say it would be somehow similar to Goldilocks, except that the entry tribute is very different in this sense. So it's not like that was the main strategy there, although it can still be considered a high entry tribute.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know if Lauren maybe disagrees, but I think it's the most similar there.
Do you think 22 is still really too high? But I do like the strategy.
Wait, what was your question, Nate?
No, I was just commenting that I like the strategy of it. I just still think 22 is too high.
I think that with the Goldilocks proposal, I don't know if you guys have, I showed it in the last debate, but what is it? convert.tecommons.org. You can actually see how it looks. So when people are actually buying TEC tokens, they're not like, oh, there's this tribute percentage that I'm putting in there. It's like a tooltip. They only really just see the price. And then so it's also the price that they're buying the tokens at, which includes the entry tribute, contributes to the market cap. It's the price that you can get tokens at is actually $1.77. There's a slide on the voters pamphlet. Maybe I can share my screen. Oh, sorry, my everything is chaotic right now.
I can share
the to mention that the TC convert doesn't show the Goldilocks anymore. It's now set at Bolshevik Gambit since 5 minutes ago. But,
well, yeah. Whatever. It doesn't matter if it's showing Goldilocks or Bolshevik's Gambit. The point is really here. I managed. I can. Oh, thanks, Livia. I'll share my screen too so that I can convert as well. Convert.tecommons.org. So whether it's showing Bolsheviks or showing whatever proposal, all of them have some degree of entry tribute. And really all you see is, okay, I'm coming in here, I want to buy TEC tokens, and then you just oh, I guess I have to connect my account. You just put in a number and then basically it's oh, okay, cool. So, with one die, I get 63 cents of TEC. So it doesn't show oh, and we're taking 22% off and we're putting it wherever. But you see that if you kind of look here and you're okay, there's part of it going to the common pool. So even people who are coming in the early days aren't really feeling the entry tribute so explicitly. And actually it does benefit us in this kind of oh, the market cap's higher because it's the public price includes the entry tribute. So for Goldilocks, the public price is $1.77, and then times the total supply, and you end up with the market cap. So
should there be a disclosure?
It has it as the tooltip, but that's the oops. It does show it. It shows the entry tribute here, but it's the same as like yeah, it's the same as like buying into I think like anything. I mean, you know, with the hatchers, like the Goldilocks tribute is 69%. So 69% of the funds the hatchers put on go into the TEC common pool. Like we're like, okay, cool. Like take 70% of my funds and put it to the TEC to advanced token engineering initiatives. So I think like the 22% exit tribute is like much smaller than what the hatchers are paying. And so it's like encouraging value on people in the early days. And then it's also not really deterring people from coming in because like speculators who are just looking to buy the TEC token aren't seeing like, oh, I would have got this, but then they put this entry tribute. And yeah, and then I think like with the discussion like around the votes, and it's like, oh, are people going to really vote to increase the exit tribute or decrease the entry tribute in the process like is set up for Goldilocks, where every month you decrease the entry tribute by 4% and increase the exit tribute by 2%. I think like a really important question is just to like ask if you would you vote to increase the exit tribute and decrease the entry tribute? Because we have our trusted seed, like we have the hatchers, which at the early days are holding a huge percentage of the tokens. And so if that's the way that we decide that we want the economy to go forward, like it's within our power to make it happen.
I think that's a good segue to the next question. That is, how are proposals addressing governance and especially number of token holders versus active voters? So do you think that by choosing the parameters like that, that is an incentive for voter participation? Because the economy, the way it is influencing token holders in a certain way. And then they have an incentive to be active to switch to a different direction because that will also affect them.
Are you asking me?
Yeah, just because you were talking about that already.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is interesting. In the last debate, that was something that Danny Bell had said. She was like, "Oh, with the Goldilocks proposal, it's actually like setting it up to encourage people to participate in governance further, because we're going to be having like active DAO votes, and the way like we're like, oh, we're passing this proposal to increase the exit tribute, decrease the entry tribute. Then we share this with the community, and then like even new people coming in are able to like start using their tokens and participate. And yeah, I think that like with I don't know, and adding to that, I think something really good about the Goldilocks proposal is that the reserve ratio isn't too low. So new people who are buying tokens aren't like inflating the price so quickly that they can never compete with the amount of tokens held by the hatchers. Like the token price doesn't increase so high and then they're putting in tons and tons of money and then they're only getting small amounts of tokens and the hatchers still started out with a huge bunch. It's like new people coming in are able to get like a good amount of tokens in order to participate in governance. And then we also have this opportunity where there are DAO votes being presented and being available, and then people can come in and vote and will be encouraged to come in and vote. And I think that this brings more people. It's also like in alignment with our mission to advance token engineering. It's like we want to have collaborative economics where people are participating in the governance structure. So it's like having opportunities for people to do that, I think, is really valuable.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you. So for the proposals that have lower reserve ratio, like mathematics and 420, do you think that could also incentivize governance somehow because people were paying more attention to the volatility of the tokens, so they're more engaged with the community? Or you think that just works that is independent of the voter behavior, that it's more like a market strategy?
I don't correlate the reserve ratio with voter participation. I would say that based on empirical data, we will have no shortage of votes. There's going to be probably a covenant we need to rewrite to take into account this like malfeasance on the conviction voting or potential malfeasance on conviction voting. I think we'll have a lot of voting to do. So I guess I'm less concerned about having enough votes to make. I guess I would say the big thing here, right, is the governance, like the ability for entrants into the TEC who don't currently hold TEC to acquire a proportional amount of governance. And I think this is the big point. There's Gideon and I had just had an exchange on the forum actually, and around this as well. And the as I'm imagining, like, oh, how can, like, there's this one thing, we wanted to raise the market cap to like provide more value and to insulate the economy from like a hostile takeover. I think that when we look at the numbers for proposals that have a lower market cap and something like I'm sorry, I'm going to point this out, but like the $6 million. So it would only take $6 million to basically have a hostile takeover of the TEC with Ostrom's baby. And it seems like $6 million isn't actually that much money. So for me, that's actually a big risk. And so in tweaking this sort of like, how do we get that a little higher so that it's like less interesting to try to take over the entire economy from hatchers? Just felt like an unintended consequences was like, oh no, anyone who comes into the TC isn't going to have proportionate governance rights now. And when I was thinking about like, well, how do we solve this? Okay, well, maybe you turn off the bonding curve. Like, what are the out of the box thinking solutions for this kind of situation? Maybe it's you turn off the bonding curve and then the token supply stays flat, right? It doesn't go up or down unless we decide as a community to print more tokens. Now it's sort of, under our own control. And in Zargam's fireside chat last night, he made a convincing argument on why it wouldn't be so great to turn off the bonding curve. And that even in a stable economy, the bonding curve would kind of be impotent. It just wouldn't be activated because there's no volatility and interest in the arbitrage from primary and secondary markets. So that was super interesting, new insights all the time. And then I was like, well, what is the ideal? And I was like, oh my God, the ideal is exactly what the community has already passed and proposed to do, which is have a governance only token that has an infinite vesting period, that is never going to be a price token. And that way we could reward people who are participating in our economy, in our community and in our economy, with governance tokens proportionate to governance that hatchers have, and pay them a fair market price in terms of the TEC tokens. But we don't have it. So in my mind, that's the deus ex machina that comes and fixes everything at the end. We don't have that solution, and I understand there is sufficient technical challenges to having that. So I guess if anything, 420 would want, like, market participants would realize that they're outwhaled unless they were able to put in dozens of millions of dollars into the economy. And the token, like, it's a commons. It's, we want open source software and research and education. It doesn't seem like somebody would want to put in that much money in order to take over the economy with a mission such as ours. I don't know if that answers about voting, but I don't know. I think that we're going to see similar to what we see now with voting. And it's just that the people that are active will participate in voting, and the people that are really focused on other things will delegate. And the key to a successful participation is going to have active delegates. And that's what I think is going to actually be most important than trying to get everyone to vote. I don't think that's going to happen. I'll pass back to you so other people can speak.
Thank you, Tam. That's a good point. I want to give the chance to Juan or Septimus to answer that. Do you think 6 million is too little that could make the community vulnerable to a hostile takeover?
Well, yeah, it could be possible to have that hostile takeover if someone bad intentioned places 6 million inside the bonding curve just in a buy. But also, I think that hatchers are going to participate also in the bonding curve. So that's why I think that the governance of hatchers will be increased with the bonding curve. And also, yeah, I think that from the ethics of the project, like collaborative economics and like avoiding to create a technocracy, yeah, this scope also allows not only bad intentioned people but also good intentioned people to participate in the project. I always think of someone like me, someone who just have like 1 year actively participating in a DAO, and someone who maybe can come new and make an impact with his participation, his or her participation. um, and I think that yeah, they should be rewarded. And also, yeah, well, the other thing that for me is very triggering is the behavior of the price when Hatcher's tokens are sold. And yeah, that's something that also concerns me. And one good strong thing about Ostrom's baby is that hatchers can sell half of their tokens, and the price of the token wouldn't be cut to half. But in other proposals, if hatchers sell at least a 50%, the price of the token, even if it would have been really high, drops below one. So yeah, that's another thing that scares me, and this is more related about sustainability.
I want to add a comment. Thank you, Juan. I just want to add a comment on this idea of like, what if someone comes in and buys $6 million worth of tokens and takes over the DAO? The design of this system is such that if someone really does that, they raise the price for everyone to dump on them. So now the hatchers, their tokens are frozen for this period of time. But while this takeover is happening, if the token freezes happen, if this happens and someone takes over the DAO and the people who are in it aren't happy, they can actually go and start another commons, especially this commons. I think we could spin up another commons and just add a smart contract line that says this guy can't do it, or we add a little fix so that we can have a little bit more control over what whales come in, and we could just start another one. And I don't think that it would be, we could actually take the profits that we have from this guy putting in 6 million, and we could actually exit and start another one.
And actually, it doesn't also make sense to put like $6 million to govern a 1 million common pool. I think, yeah, I mean, you do the numbers, but it's not worth it.
Yeah, and with the proposals that have the low reserve ratio, especially if you have somebody who puts in a lot of money, and this fear that we're kind of preventing newcomers from participating in the governance aspect of it, I think that I have the assumption that, you know, if we have a lot of money coming into the common pool or the economy with a low reserve ratio proposal, that, you know, some of us will sell. I mean, and that's totally expected, and that's our governance power will slowly decrease over the long term, and that distribution of governance rights will be spread to newcomers and over time. And so I think it's kind of a sustainable model in terms of, like, you know, we see the return on the gains that we've gotten in terms of like how much money we put in, and we properly and slowly, gradually distribute this governance power to newcomers that are participating in the commons. And so I think it actually does help with governance rights, with having that low reserve ratio and higher price point for our token.
Also, as we are using the quadratics, yeah, the voting power of whales gets reduced proportional to how big that whale is. So yeah, I think that if someone buys 6 million, they won't have like just one person that governance. It should have been, or it should be like an attack of someone making a bunch of wallets and buying and being like an evil mind behind a lot of wallets.
Let me throw another scenario out because I really want to hear everyone's opinion about this too. So let's say it's like a pump and dump scheme. Let's say we look like an easy target. We have this great reputation. We have these amazing backers. We have these amazing hatchers. And somebody puts in 6 million, has 50% of the governance rights, but now is like pumping the price out, marketing, getting other people to buy in and to get attracted to the TEC. And then that person actually exits with all the profits and leaves the bag holders and the hatchers holding the bags. Does that seem like something that is a attack surface that we should be concerned about?
Actually, no, because of the reserve ratio, because we will still have like our reserve. So that's one of the other bad things of having a very low reserve ratio, that there's no money backing the token. So if that person buys and then tries to dump, a lot of the funds will stay in the reserve ratio, in the reserve balance. But if we have a low reserve ratio, people that buy, the money goes directly to the price of the token, and when they sell, they impact directly the price of the token without having a reserve balance. So yeah, actually that scenario happens, but it's really easy for hatchers to take all the funds from the common pool with a low reserve ratio, and that's what I am trying to say, that if 50% of hatchers sell, the price of the token goes below $1 with a low reserve ratio.
I think there are two sides to this issue. In the case of a low reserve ratio, actually yes, the price would rise a lot, and these pump and dump schemes could become very profitable for the whale who sets them in motion. But well, on one hand, this would give us a lot of money for the commons pool through the tribute, while granting them very little voting power because of this low reserve ratio, which they would get relatively little tokens, while still funding a lot of money for the common pool, which, well, is an option. It's not necessarily bad. On the other hand, if the reserve ratio is higher and the curve is more flat, these pump and dump schemes become less profitable for the whales, but grant them more voting power. And I think, going back to what Septimus said, that it doesn't make sense to invest 6 million for a 1 million common pool. Well, yeah, maybe, depends on I mean, 1 billion isn't little money anyway, but if the risk is that with a high reserve ratio, this is going to be like that for way higher market caps, because the relationship isn't going to change significantly. So okay, we have 1 million and 6 million to buy, but if we have suddenly 30 million in the reserve balance, the balance will be the same, and suddenly it becomes more interesting. So yeah, I think that's something to keep in mind. I don't really have a point there to make, but yeah.
But since the reserve is also low, like after the like the reward system is going to distribute tokens, and if you pump the price, then the community can dump on you, as Griff was saying before.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point, Septi. It's like if they're pumping the price with all these tokens, when they dump, they're gonna also, the price is gonna go down also so quickly that they're not gonna like make huge profits on it. If it's like, if we're just talking about what's on the ABC, and then in this case too, we also have to just like consider like the tributes, and that like when somebody's buying tons of tokens, they're putting tons of tokens into the common pool, and then when they're exiting, they're putting like also more of their tokens in the common pool. So like it's also something to consider. It's like with the low reserve ratio, the pump and dump, it'll just be like more volatile even for the person just doing it. Like, I mean, if they pump the price and then more people bought tokens and then they held their tokens, they would have this perceived wealth that they're like, yeah, I got so many tokens, and then they're super high in value. But if they were to dump all their tokens, then the price would drop so fast.
Yeah, I think that was a very interesting discussion. I think the sustainability question was covered with all that has been going around. But there's one last scenario in governance that I wanted to hear what the proposals, how are they addressing it or how they think about it. So there is a very common governance failure that happened in the MakerDAO community that many DAOs are prone to that. That is just the majority of people who has tokens are inactive in governance, or not only inactive in governance, but disconnected from the mission of the DAO and the core contributors. So they're not making, if they were to vote, their decisions were not aligned with the people who have been contributing more closely to the project. So how do you think we could avoid something like that from happening? And is there any proposal that is addressing that?
Oh my God, can I respond to that without any proposals or anything, like, and not being on any of those? It just made me think of being in the military. How does the commander operate or like control an entire organization? They literally like don't know anything which way is up, and then they walk into a room and in a matter of 15 minutes they have the whole operational picture, and then they can take all the context that they're holding to make decisions. We need to be like presenting somehow the operation to those people in order for them to like get up here really fast. It's about situational awareness is like my theory. That's like what I wanted to add to that piece, is it's like totally possible and we just don't have a front end for it yet.
Can I take the word? Yeah, I think like you said, most token holders just don't care and don't really get involved in governance. I think the delegate system is actually the most realistic solution. We have a very involved community, and having delegates voting on the DAO issues, which are maybe a bit more complex, is going to be what ends up happening. And I think we have a great comms team which will make amazing work communicating everything, and it's great that we have these voting extensions and this quiet ending periods and so. But I think I expect the community to get more involved in the actual garden and conviction voting, and I think that is okay, because what we are trying to do is mainly to fund public goods and set projects in motion. So I think once with this governance dynamic of staking on a proposal and which makes you actively involved in it involves you emotionally in what you're funding and what you're voting for, and then you can follow the team, and it's way more personal than just some abstract DAO parameters which we are maybe changing or maybe not, which I think can be delegated to the core team and the stewards, which will change and which are accountable to the community. So
yeah, thank you. Maybe just a clarification to that then. I think there are many cultural ways of addressing that problem, but I was curious if that was somehow present in the parameters. And maybe to what you're saying, again, the delegation period could have something to do with that.
Set minimum quorum to 0.
But Lauren, you had something to share.
Just taking a moment for Nate's comment to sink in. You're like, oh no. I have a few things to say. I mean, I guess like first I want to say, did you guys know, because I didn't know this before we launched the Give Economy, that delegation is only valid for DAO voting and not for conviction voting? So, okay, cool. So yeah, I think that, I think for DAO voting, having I could argue Goldilocks here. I want to just say in general, but then I'll argue why Goldilocks does a good job of this. It's like with the, I think the delegates in the Goldilocks proposal have good power because like contentiousness in the delegates vote can trigger the quiet ending extension, because it's like, so there's a 5-day vote duration, 3-day delegated voting period, but then also like 3-day quiet ending period. So there's this like 1 day in the middle, which is like my middle finger. It is the day where the delegates can flip the vote. And then so if the delegates flip the vote, then there's this extension. Then we get more people coming in being like, oh, wow, like the delegates who are like maybe hatchers or like people in the community who are really active, like there's contentiousness around this. And I think that this is like then attractive to bring people in to wonder like what's happening, like why is this vote contentious? And then I think the ability for the delegates to trigger the quiet ending extension can really increase like more people coming in. But in general, I think the problem with the voter apathy and participation is like something that is like the same for all the proposals. It's just like, you know, increasing our communications and like trying to get people excited about what's going on and bring people as active members in the community. But I think that's valid for every proposal.
Maybe I'll just add, you know, of course, I think it's definitely going to be cultural. Like using the forum is a great way to get people to see things that are happening outside of these calls and are, you know, very fast moving Discord where people can't really catch up. And then I think, you know, there's 3 proposals that have longer vote times. I think giving the community time to review. So the 3 that have a week or more is mathematics, Ostroms, and Bolsheviks. I feel like giving time to these kind of proposals also can encourage more participation in the vote. So trade-off, you know, it's sort of there's going to be negative consequences to slower moving votes as well.
Does anyone hasn't spoken yet has a question to anything that was said in the call today?
Hi, I have a question. That's okay.
Hello. Yeah, what's your question?
I'm just curious. You've spoken a bit about treasury, well, not so much treasury management, but like attack vectors in terms of sort of attack via sort of token ownership. You mentioned that you're doing quadratic voting, so you know I assume that will give you some level of protection. But in terms of your treasury distribution, is that all in your own token, or do you do sort of treasury swaps with other DAOs? Is that something that's in the strategy?
The treasury is in XDAI, actually. It's not in TC.
It's all in XDAI?
Yeah.
And is that something you've ever considered then, sort of treasury swaps, sort of you know, with aligning with other DAOs? And
we have set up a multi-sig actually to start exploring that. Right now we're focused on launching this thing, but it's definitely in our sights that we would like to do token swaps in the future with TEC.
Cool, thank you.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Nugget.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'd have to say, even if the treasury of the TC is going to be XDAI, the TC will own a substantial amount of TC tokens, which we will buy the moment we open the bonding curve. So we will have them. We don't want to use them. We are probably think about using them for token swaps and stuff like that. But there will be a significant amount of TC tokens held by the DAO. Just to make that clear, even if it's kind of thought to be removed from the day-to-day operations.
Yeah, also the rewards from the reward system are going to be distributed in TEC tokens. So we make sure that people who are participants that are contributing, they have governance power from there. And I was going to ask Griff also to share a little bit about how conviction voting is a mechanism that somehow fights Cebu attacks in its own way.
Yeah, it mitigates plutocracy with time. So it's different than quadratic voting, which mitigates it with identity. But with conviction voting, when you vote, it takes time for your power to build. So whales can't just pass proposals, and the community has time to react to what whales do. And it's not adding an individual perspective, but it does mitigate plutocracy with time. Is that what you wanted me to say, Livia?
Yeah. Thank you. Cool. So we're on the top of the hour. Yeah, you want to add something?
Oh, I was just going to say, I mean, to this point of like, with the initial buy, the TEC is going to be holding a bunch of TEC tokens that we could also use like for governance and for participation. There's slide 21 in the voters pamphlet actually shows the amount of TEC that each proposal is getting out. And, you know, they're between 150,000 and 240,000, except for 420, which is actually only 65,000 TEC, just saying. So it's actually in that proposal, the amount of tokens that the TEC holds is actually quite small in comparison.
Relative.
Thanks so much, everyone, for joining. And if you have questions, write in the forum, and they will be answered as soon as possible.